Good evening and welcome to another episode of Más con Más with your host, Raúl Mas, and I have a very special guest with me this evening, Andres Albuquerque, who I've known for many years. Andres, welcome to the program.
This is a great opportunity. I have my own show. I stayed over, changed my tie because it was a pleasure to join you. And this is a challenge because it's going to be bilingual. My first show is in Spanish. Now this one in English. This is the kind of thing Raúl gets me through anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I want to know what we have for the show today. What is it?
We've got a terrific program this evening, and I mean that with all sincerity. We have 4 very special guests this evening.
Okay.
The first person that we're interviewing is Ana Maria Rodriguez. Ana Maria Rodriguez is a Republican state representative,
Okay.
District 105. I've known Ana Maria for many years. She also served on the Doral City Council for many years. And we're going to be talking to her about what's going on with unemployment.
That's important.
At the national level.
That's important.
What's been happening here in the state of Florida. I'm sure many of you saw that we are now basically at 30 million unemployment claims throughout the country, according to the Department of Labor, an unemployment rate that is approaching 20%. As I've mentioned on previous programs, the highest unemployment rate ever seen in the U.S. was back in the 1920s when it reached 24.9%. Well, we're getting very, very close to that number.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking to Ana Maria about what's going on in particular with the state of Florida and the difficulties of people processing those claims.
And what about the next?
The next segment is a gentleman by the name of Tom Spencer. Tom is an attorney. I've known Tom also for a great many years, very active in politics, very knowledgeable. And we're going to talk about the news this morning of Joe Biden basically saying, I had nothing to do with it, okay?
I had nothing to do with that woman.
Nothing to do with that woman.
Miss Reed, and then the little tear.
Exactly, exactly. Very much like Bill Clinton.
Boba.
Bill
Very
Clinton
much like
basically
Boba.
said, you know, I'd never seen her, don't know her,
No.
whatever. That's what we heard from Joe Biden this morning. We're going to hear Tom's perspective on that.
Then?
The third episode is perhaps the most interesting one that we're having this evening. A gentleman by the name of Leland Levy. Leland Levy is a former Army infantry and intelligence officer who served for many years under Michael Flynn. And Leland's got some very strong opinions about his former boss. He thinks very highly of him. You'll hear from him what he believes is the truth behind this whole scandal that we've seen these last couple days, where the FBI has basically been exposed as trying to, in essence, entrap General Flynn back when he first served as National Security Advisor to President Trump.
And I think we should also watch it from the personal perspective. I mean, the gentleman is no lawyer. He's not a judge. He's not going to decide whether Flynn is innocent or guilty. But what we can do with him is to put Flynn into perspective.
Correct.
What kind of a character, what kind of a person he was, and does it coincide with the view that we got through the different indictments and charges?
Listen, one of the reasons that this program is called Más con Más is because we're trying to go a little bit more beyond the headlines that you're seeing every night in the news, right? So you hear this political debates back and forth about Flynn did this, Flynn is this, Flynn did that. What about talking to somebody that actually knows the man, who's actually been in combat with him? I mean, if you want to understand what somebody is like, you know, you want to be with him, not during the easy moments, but during the difficult moments in life. And that's exactly where Leland found himself working with Lieutenant General Flynn many, many years ago. And I think that perspective is important for you to see a different side of the picture than just the headlines and the political talking points back and forth. And hopefully that's what makes this program a little bit different.
And the mudslinging and all of that. And then what about the fourth person? Who is
The fourth person is Neida Costa. I want our viewers to see why we're all sort of hunkered down at home, you know, trying to make sure we don't spread COVID-19. As you know, we're doing this primarily for 2 reasons. Number 1, so that we don't overwhelm our health system, and number 2, so that we don't really infect the most vulnerable members of our society, those that are basically our elderly and are infirmed. And Natha is just a great individual. I think you'll enjoy hearing from her.
She's 90 something.
She's 90. She's going to be 94 years old. And she's going to tell us a little bit about what her life is like. And by the way, I forgot to mention, her husband died, unfortunately, 17 months ago. But today, May 1st, would have been their 50th wedding anniversary. And I think you'll enjoy meeting Natha and hearing her story.
Yeah.
So stick with us. I think you'll enjoy this episode of Más con Más. And thank you again for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Ana Maria, thank you for joining us today on Más con Más. I really appreciate you taking time out from your schedule to join us. Give us a little bit of background on what's going on at the state level. Obviously, a lot of problems with the Department of Economic Opportunity, their claims office. A lot of claims that still have not been paid, and obviously a lot of budgetary issues as well. I mean, the state of Florida has got to be suffering enormously, being as dependent as it is with tourism in terms of the state's own budget. So can you just give us a little bit of a highlight as to what's going on first with the claim situation, and then talk to us about the budgetary issues?
Well, yes, absolutely, Raul. And first of all, I want to say thank you to you for having me on Más con Más. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your program. To give you a little overview of where we're at in terms of the numbers, I pulled these last week. Obviously, it changes on an hour-by-hour basis, but to give you a high-level overview, Florida has received 688,723. They've received more than that, but those are confirmed unique claims, okay? In terms of claims that have been verified, we've gotten 682,648. And out of those, 210,703 are actually claims that are processed. And in terms of claims that have been paid, again, these are numbers from last week, it was 116,830 for a total of $150.5 million. Now, when you look at that from a high level, obviously it speaks volumes in terms of, we are definitely behind the 8 ball and trying to catch up to make sure that people who have requested and need these unemployment assistance, get that in a quick fashion. Obviously, it hasn't been that way, and I know that the state has implemented a new system to make up for the one that was there before, which was basically a pretty antiquated and arcane unemployment system. Up until the COVID pandemic, Florida, boasted a very low unemployment rate. So, we're actually blessed up until this pandemic hit, the whole country and the whole world, frankly. But I want to talk a little bit about, in terms of the benefits and how, because a lot of people have asked, if they applied and they got denied, or, they applied and they're not really sure, because that there's federal assistance and there's state assistance.
Correct. And a lot of people are asking whether their benefits are going to be retroactive, because, they've been trying to get in since early in April and they've been unable to. The system has been down.
Yes.
And the other question that they have is, if it is retroactive, does that retroactive also apply to the contribution from the part of the federal government, the famous $600 additional monies?
Yes, so those are great questions. The retroactivity was approved, and so the payments will be retroactive to March 9th. Okay. So that's actually a great thing for Floridians. And I want to talk a little bit about a lot of people that are independent contractors, or what are also called gig workers. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people are traditionally not eligible for unemployment assistance. So I want to just talk about the people that have applied on or before April 4th of this year. Those people need to reapply because the system was changed. And so we want to make sure people know that if they applied on or before April 4th, they're going to have to submit an application again at floridajobs.org. If you submitted your application on or after April 5th, then you are all set and you just need to wait to hear from the DEO. So the claim, obviously it's in process, and you should be hearing something very, very soon, if not already. And after you apply, you're going to be notified for additional questions in regards to the PUA, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So traditionally, Raul, the state of Florida pays $275 per week up to 12 weeks of unemployment. And this is now increased to up to 39 weeks of unemployment at $275 per week plus an additional $600.
Ana Maria, I
per
hear that
week.
if you're going to apply now, you have to do it. You cannot do it from a mobile device. It has to be from a laptop or a personal computer for encryption reasons. And I hear that you have to start again. If you have a previous record, you have to start over again. Is that accurate?
Yes. Well, as I just mentioned, if you applied on or before April 4th, then yes, you do need to submit an application again. If you applied on or after April 5th, then you don't have to submit it again. That's a critical date for people. Hopefully people that applied remember the date that they applied. They should, have it written down or maybe an email or some kind of correspondence that confirms the date that they applied. But that's really important because if you did it anytime from when the pandemic started until April 4th, you basically have to start from zero.
And what about the mobile device?
Okay, so the mobile devices are now able. You can do it on a mobile device.
And is there
So
any
no.
problem with encryption?
Yes, and I just want to add one more thing. In addition to the mobile devices, and I'm sure you all heard about this a few weeks ago when we were in the midst of the people who do not have internet, who don't have smartphones, who don't have a laptop at home or whatever the case, can use paper applications. There was a time where they weren't really taking paper applications, and then they decided that it was okay to take paper applications. So that's important for your listeners to know. If there's anyone who's just not tech savvy or doesn't have a printer, Miami-Dade County libraries have printed copies of the unemployment applications available.
So it seems like some of the money is flowing finally, and hopefully people start seeing some of that money hitting their bank accounts soon or receiving checks if they're getting printed checks. Let me ask you, I think you mentioned to me at one point that the state of Florida is going to have another legislative session coming up. Is that correct?
Well, in light of everything that's happened, we don't really have another choice, right? The legislative session takes place every year in the springtime. It actually just ended in March. And we actually had a balanced budget. We put billions of dollars in reserves. We actually had quite a successful legislative session by all accounts. But when you throw in the the shortfalls that we're going to be expecting between the month of March, what remains to be seen we have to see the April numbers that are going to come in, and then at the end of May we'll see. At the beginning of June we'll see the May numbers for the state of Florida. I'm anticipating, and I don't want to commit because I don't know for sure, but I could very safely say that in the month of June, we'll be having a special legislative session to address all the shortfalls from March, April, and May.
Terrific. But just so that our viewers understand, the money that's coming from the unemployment, that is a separate trust fund, is that correct?
Yes, the money, the state of Florida in and of itself has money in its unemployment budget. We had already allocated funds toward our unemployment budget last year, or rather, yes, last year for this year, and then now this year we allocated our budget for next year. So the purpose of the special session would be to modify and obviously increase the amount of money that we would be putting in that budget allocation for reemployment.
Terrific. Thank you, Ana Maria. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you taking time out from your day to explain to us what's going on. There's a lot of anxiety out there, as you know, people wondering when they're going to get some help from the state in terms of unemployment, and this helps enormously. Good luck in that legislative session. I got to believe that the state budget is in disarray, given the fact that we depend so much on tourism dollars and everything else in the state. But hopefully you'll be able to find your way out of it.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Somos NTV USA. Conéctate con nuestra programación en directo en los siguientes horarios y días. Lunes a viernes, 6 de la tarde, hora del este, línea deportiva. 7 de la noche, hora del este, O Qué Chisme con Odi Abreu. A las 8 de la noche, punto final. A las 9 de la noche, lunes y miércoles, A lo Cortés con Tony Cortés. Los martes a las 9, dame un like, y el jueves a las 9 también, De Noche con Roche. NTV USA, de Miami para el mundo, con una vista. Basta.
Hola, soy Norlene. Welcome to the place where we produce the best coffee, Café La Rica. En Síguenos Roasters hacemos el mejor café, el café oficial de los Miami Marlins, my team. Somos una gran familia y lo único que queremos es que todos prueben nuestro café, Café La Rica.
Super Greens es una combinación única, cargada de nutrientes que provienen de supercomidas. Con más de 20 años de investigación en nutrición mineral, hemos adquirido el conocimiento necesario para crear uno de los productos más saludables a base de plantas. Cada supercomida en este suplemento ha sido seleccionada cuidadosamente, ya que se complementan y realzan entre ellas. De esta manera maximizan el poder nutricional de Super Greens. Además, utilizamos una técnica de fermentación especializada para aumentar la biodisponibilidad de cada supercomida. Finalmente, agregamos probióticos y enzimas poderosas para un mayor apoyo al sistema digestivo. Super Greens de Longevity es el suplemento superalcalinizante que ayudará a balancear tu cuerpo. Es la manera más poderosa de consumir una mayor cantidad de frutas y verduras orgánicas todos los días, en una sola cucharada. Consulte a su distribuidor de Longevity para obtener mayor información.
Tom, thank you for joining us here on Moscow Mas. I appreciate you taking time out from your schedule to talk to us today.
My pleasure.
And listen, we want to start off by talking about the sort of the subject of this morning, which is Joe Biden's denial that he had anything to do with Tara Reade. Were you able to watch that interview? What are your impressions of what you heard from Joe Biden this morning?
You know, I did watch it. It was like a deer in the headlights moment. And I think that what happened was the newscaster was just stunned by his responses, and he was stunned by his own responses, I think. And, you know, it's when you look at this case, you have to look at it, I think, from different levels and different landscapes. One is the political landscape, and one is the, you know, the legal, sort of the legal landscape. I'm a lawyer. You know, I've tried a lot of cases, and so I'm you know, I'm one of these guys that believes in the rules of evidence and due process. And you know, it's a moment in American history where we shouldn't be. You know, there should be rules of the road concerning allegations like this. And there aren't, and so it becomes a political power structure, power play. And what happened with Joe Biden is that he was there at the beginning of this. You know, Scalia was confirmed by the United States Senate 98-0.
Right.
And prior to that time, there was never a contentious Supreme Court fight the likes of which we have seen.
With Brett Kavanaugh, you're
The
referring
interesting
to.
thing is, the interesting thing is Joe Biden was the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee when all of this started. And from the time that he was chairman of that committee forward is when all of this crazy stuff has started. And you know, he started it with Clarence Thomas.
Yep.
He started it with Justice Bork,
Right.
who he promised was going to go on, and then he turned around and stabbed him in the back. So, you know, this is kind of like on a political basis, purely political. This is sort of like justice for Joe Biden.
So he's getting literally a taste of his own medicine, correct?
Right. He's getting paid back for what he did.
Right.
And, you know, Justice Thomas has recently come out and talked a little bit about what he went through and why he coined the term high-tech lynching. And Joe Biden is getting a high-tech lynching right now, and the Democrats are in a deep bind with respect to it, because the Me Too movement is exploding in their faces. What they did with Brett Kavanaugh was just unbelievable.
Yep.
You know, that's sort of the political aspect of this thing.
Tom, let me ask you a question. I perceive a certain dichotomy here comparing Kavanaugh's case and the attitude of Me Too, Biden himself saying that you have to believe the victim. And now most of the press being silent, Nancy Pelosi saying, I'm happy with Joe, and even Hillary Clinton supporting Joe Biden without waiting to see whether he was guilty or not. Do you see any sort of dichotomy here?
I think it's an unbelievable dichotomy. I think it just shows you how the Democrats and the media will treat a particular case and the truth in a way that helps their political campaign. And it should demonstrate to the American people how corrupt the mainstream media is, and how the mainstream media, together with their political patrons on the Democratic side, in the feminist movement and whatever the Me Too movement, you know, have hijacked any kind of due process or truth. What happened to Brett Kavanaugh was disgusting. I mean, it's something that, you know, it was like the Salem witchcraft trials. That was sort of the standard of proof that people used. They believed her because it was to their political advantage. And now here, where you've got an even stronger case by this lady, Tara Reid, if you match up the two cases, there's not even a scintilla of demonstration that the Kavanaugh allegations had any substance whatsoever. This lady has got some substance to her claims.
Well, first of all, she was an adult. She apparently told her neighbors. She told her brother.
Mom.
Yeah, told her mom. Her mother called into Larry King Live because she was worried about what had happened to her daughter on Capitol Hill. And this was, 25 years ago? I mean, it really wasn't that terribly long ago, 27 years ago or so. And, you know, like you say, they were adults. I mean, this is not, you know, we're trying to get into the mind of some adolescent teenager, you know, and whether or not they were at some party at some friend's house. I mean, this is a woman who was a junior staffer who basically made a very explicit accusation, you know. And one of the things that struck me in his comment was this little phraseology about how, although the details of the allegation are somewhat complicated, and I'm asking myself, you know, he mentioned that, and I'm asking myself, what is complicated about what she said? I mean, she basically said, he grabbed me, he pushed me up against the wall, and he stuck his hand down my pants, you know? There ain't a whole lot of, you know, black or white there. It either happened or it didn't happen.
There's
right?
no room for interpretation there. It's either that or nothing.
Right.
But what we know from politics and political events is that the cover-up is always 100 times worse than the crime.
Sure.
And what we're experiencing now and what we're seeing and what we will see in the next couple of weeks is a massive cover-up. He sent his team to the University of Delaware library, and they were in there in March going through all of his papers. Now, what were they doing? And why were they allowed to go in when they were supposed to be sealed? And where the university had sealed them and said they were going to be opened, and then they extended the sealing because he has a lot of friends on the University of Delaware.
Sure. He's practically funded the federal funds have probably
Right.
flowed freely into the University of Delaware.
It's his turf.
Exactly. So, it's now we're going to be engaged in the cover-up. And now he says, well, she has to go to the Senate clerk, and the documents are in the National Archives. Well, we know what happened in the National Archives the last time there was a problem. So why has it been almost a month that there has been no response from Biden concerning this matter?
He's been
What
scrambling.
have they been doing?
He's been
And
scrambling.
why didn't he react immediately?
He's been
Okay.
scrambling.
But I said that there are many parts to this. The other part is what I would call the legal part, due process part. And I think that it's time for us as a nation to come to grips with some due process and standards with regard to these Me Too claims. I personally don't think that from a legal point of view, from the point of view of a nation or a system of laws, that somebody should be able to raise these kinds of allegations after, let's say, 25 years. Very, very serious allegations that could be made against me, against any of us, whether it may be male or female. And so I think that we have to have a statute of limitations of some kind. You've got to have to go to the police and get a police report before you can come out in public.
Yep.
There is an aspect to this whole thing that happened to Kavanaugh, that happened to Justice Thomas, that's happening now, that it just doesn't seem fair to me.
It doesn't. It
doesn't
doesn't. But
seem
unfortunately,
right.
Tom, I don't
Legal.
think it's going to be solved in this election cycle.
Not anytime soon.
Not anytime
No.
soon. But thank you for being with us, Tom. I appreciate you taking time out from your day to talking about this, and hope to have you again on the program someday soon.
Nuestra plataforma en TV USA tiene su propia aplicación para teléfono inteligente. Si el sistema operativo de su teléfono es Android, vaya al Play Store y busque NTV USA. Descárguela e instálela. Si tiene un iPhone, debe ir sencillamente al Apps Store, buscar NTV USA e instalarla. Es sencillo, fácil y cómodo. Ahí va a tener las notificaciones para poder ver todos los shows. Igualmente, en los anuncios de los programas de NTV USA encontrará los enlaces que con un solo clic lo llevarán directamente a las aplicaciones de teléfonos inteligentes. Así que disfrute de nuestra programación y esté conectado. No se olvide de darle clip a la campanita para activar las notificaciones. Camina para que te conozcan, que con una vista basta.
Hello, my name's Dave Brisky, And my new program, Brisky Business, is going to be coming to you every Wednesday. We're going to start off that program with a nice cup of coffee together, and then we're going to start talking about business. We're going to talk about brisk business basics, brisk buy and bail, brisks bulls and bears, and brisk best and brightest, which really is a show about mentorship and about learning about business. I'll see you on Wednesday.
¿Qué pasaría si existiera un suplemento nutritivo que pudiera ayudar a proteger la salud de los ojos de los efectos del envejecimiento y del estrés del día a día de la actualidad? Bien, ¿qué pasaría si ese complemento viniera de uno de los nombres más confiables en nutrición? ¿No lo haría parte de su rutina diaria? Ocutive es el producto más nuevo de la familia Longevity Pro Line. Creamos Ocutive con una poderosa variedad de nutrientes específicos y extractos naturales, creados en compuestos integrales orgánicos, todos elaborados para fomentar la mejor salud óptica. Usamos lo último en investigación ocular y creamos Ocutive, la fórmula más completa disponible para el cuidado de los ojos. Afinamos la mezcla perfecta de nutrientes, incluyendo carotenoides activos, ricos en vitaminas y minerales, y poderosos extractos naturales para dar lo último en nutrición para la salud y cuidado de la vista. Ocutive optimiza la salud de la vista. Contacte a su distribuidor de Longevity para más información.
Familia, no hay nada como recomendar a los amigos un lugar para compartir en familia. Di Crespo Steakhouse, en el corazón de Kendall. Comiendo como en casa, la comida que tú te mereces. Y por supuesto, las mejores carnes. Carnes premium. La dirección es fácil. 13772 Southwest 152 Street. En el corazón de Kendall. Al lado de Country World.
For thousands of years, the goji berry has enjoyed an unmatched reputation among the people of Asia for its remarkable health-promoting properties. Ever since the 1st century, the little red berry has been praised for its legendary ability to increase physical and mental capacity, reduce fatigue, boost energy, enhance immune function, improve sleep, and improve overall health and well-being. Goji delivers an unprecedented and standardized high potency of the unique LBPs in the goji berry. The Goji effect on human health is demonstrated in 3 recent randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled human clinical trials where Goji proved extremely effective for human health in 19 key areas. In the initial groundbreaking study, which has been accepted for publication by the highly respected Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, participants drinking just 4 ounces daily saw positive results in multiple categories of health and well-being in as little as 14 days. In addition, Goji's remarkable health-promoting properties are validated in 2 other leading scientific journals, Nutrition Research and the Journal of Food Medicine. Here are 19 reasons to use Goji. Less fatigue, improved athletic performance, increased energy, reduction of stress, feeling calmer, increased ability to focus, sharper mental acuity, better quality of sleep, easier ability to wake up, feeling healthier, feeling more content, feeling happier, improved bowel regularity, higher SOD levels, higher glutathione peroxidase, less free radical damage, increased lymphocytes, increased interleukin-2, increased immunoglobulin G. Try Goji today.
And joining us now here on Más con Más is Leland Levy. individual who happens to know Michael Flynn very well. He's known him for quite some period of time, and I asked him to join us on the program today to share with us his thoughts about what's going on in this whole sort of nefarious case of the FBI versus Michael Flynn. Leland, thank you for joining us. I know you've known General Flynn for some time. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about how you guys first met and your experience with him? I understand you've had experience not just in peaceful times, but under wartime conditions as well. So I'd appreciate you telling us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, Raul, I want to thank you for having me on today. It's a great opportunity to talk about my relationship with Michael Flynn, which dates back to 1995. I had recently arrived as a young Army captain into a new assignment, a new intelligence officer, fresh out of the infantry, somewhat just not attuned to some of the day-to-day workings and requirements of operating in that particular domain. And I found myself on the top floor in a top secret compartmentalized information facility as a staff officer working war plan development with a number of operational planners in the G3 section, in the operations section of the 18th Airborne Corps headquarters there at Fort Bragg. And I can tell you that my first interface with Michael Flynn was through the variety of meetings that lead to detailed planning, and I found him at every step to be really the consummate professional. And what I realized over time as we were going through detailed planning was that he was an intelligence officer working in the operational side of the staff, which is somewhat of a unique situation. And I had the opportunity to really talk to him a little bit about how he arrived there. And he explained to me that he was a graduate of the School of Advanced Military Studies, and that these graduates were frequently parsed out to the Army divisions and corps, the numbered corps, to provide planning support. That was initially how we first got together.
Yeah, and by the way, as I understand it, the graduates of the School of Advanced Military Studies are referred to as Jedi Knights. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a bit of a catchphrase used. It was formed in 1986. The graduates of that school have been involved with every major war planning effort and operational deployment of the Army really since Panama in 1989. General Schwarzkopf was very reliant on his SAMS graduates, and certainly when I met General Flynn in the mid-90s, the SAMS reputation had continued to increase, and he found himself doing the operational planning at the other end of the hall. And truth be told, through our relationship there, I was so inspired by a lot of his influence with the Corps commander, who was General Shelton at the time, who went on to become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It inspired me to go to the School of Advanced Military Studies later in my career based on our interface there.
You served with him again in Iraq, is that correct?
We actually had a chance encounter. I was at the time doing detailed targeting operations. I was working some human intelligence source operations. I was interfacing with the Central Intelligence Agency. General Flynn at the time had moved on to become the Director of Intelligence for Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, which does really the high-level targeting in theater and throughout the world with forces such as Delta and others. And I can tell you that in that particular interface, I had gone to meet with my contact. He was down there doing some detailed planning. When we saw each other, he took the time to introduce me literally to everybody that he was interfacing with down at that agency. And it directly resulted in some lasting relationships that were really beneficial to the efforts of the 1st Cavalry Division when we were conducting our operations in theater as well. Just every time you interface with Mike Flynn, he was looking to leverage the intel community well outside of his areas of responsibility to assist those intelligence officers that needed to have access to some of the capacity, capability, and technology that he had.
Leland, from what you're saying, what I get depicted is a Mike Flynn that has a lot of courage, a military man who's a patriot, somebody who's ready to walk the extra mile to fulfill his duties. And how do you reconcile all of that with the charges that were brought against him and the description later made by the Mueller probe and all of these elements that we heard about? How can you reconcile what you know of him with what you heard of him?
Well, it's certainly difficult. I would point to two things that are very interesting on his matriculation. He obviously retired as a three-star general. He rose to serve as the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the de facto J2 of the Joint Staff, and one of the most coveted positions in the military. When he retired and moved into the civilian world, he ultimately found himself at some point in the future working very closely with the Trump campaign. And at that particular time, he was ultimately invited, as many of you know, many of your listeners know, to speak at the convention. There was a lot of consternation from senior military officers about the role of retired military general officers and flag officers in terms of participating so actively for candidates. I personally think that that is a bit misplaced. I think if you can run for office, you certainly have the freedom to speak, certainly in a non-uniform capacity as he was, advocating for somebody that you believe should hold political office, and that's exactly what he did. But I would argue that his very boisterous support of President or then candidate Trump did not necessarily win him a lot of friends at the very highest level of the retired four-star ranks, which are very critical in terms of kind of providing the stamp of support for those that move into the highest levels of government.
But how then does that translate into the Obama administration and then eventually into the FBI? I guess that's the question. I mean, who did he manage to tick off to sort of get himself in this situation where, from what we're reading in news accounts, the FBI, was actually conspiring to get him to lie, to sort of entrap him, shortly after he'd been named National Security Advisor?
So, I would take what I just mentioned and I would also attach it to this notion as well. And that is, he moved into the National Security Advisor position, a very influential non-Senate confirmational position with the Trump administration. One of the things I would tell you is that it is very unusual for a career intelligence officer to be selected for such a powerful and influential position at the very highest level of government. So let's take two things. Let's take the resistance that some senior military retired leaders had with his very aggressive comments and support of the president, and let's also tie that together with the fact that as an intelligence officer, there were many who felt he shouldn't be the guy to go into the national security advisor position because he's not an operator. He's not a former combat arms officer. It is something that I think has kind of plagued the military in terms of being very stovepiped in some of their senior level selections. And he had a reputation when he was at the Defense Intelligence Agency for being very creative, being very innovative, not taking the bureaucratic status quo. And that did not necessarily translate into immense popularity, if you will, of someone who kind of went with the grain in D.C. He wasn't known for that. And I think that, if you take those two dynamics and you put those together, I think it puts him in a scenario where he obviously had tremendous allies within the administration, but there were some outside of the administration and those that had very different political positions that may not be as fond of his placement in that particular location. And I think, listen, we're all political beings, and even those that are serving in government service certainly have political persuasions. But when you're acting in your official capacity, it is obviously the right thing to do to act in a very neutral capacity with respect to that. I think what some of the evidence is starting to reveal is that the political dynamics associated with some of the folks that were investigating him after they couldn't find the necessary evidence to support a Logan Act violation, went after trying to trap him in a series of question and answers, really unrelated to the original charges that were investigated, that ultimately were found to have no.
Yeah, even the idea that you would prosecute him for the Logan Act as the incoming sort of national security advisor to the President of the United States is like somewhat just mind-boggling that would even happen, right? Unheard of.
Oh, it is. I mean, if you look, I mean, as you both know, the Logan Act dates back to 1799. In the history of our country, there's not been one prosecution for that's been successfully moved forward, and that also points to the fact that if it was brought forward, that it's never been tested in terms of an appeal. And there are some beliefs, constitutional scholars that believe that it is in fact not constitutional in its own right. So even to start with the Logan Act charges was a bit of a stretch, as many observers are now starting to find out. And then you couple that with the behavior of what appear to be at least some politically motivated investigators, it's certainly very disconcerting, and it should be for anybody of either
Absolutely.
party.
If they can do this to the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States, they can do it to anybody. They can do it to you, they can do it to me, they can do it to anybody. I appreciate, Leland, you're coming on the program tonight. I hope that people's eyes are open as a result of this, and I hope that there's some justice done for Lieutenant General Flynn, who he and his family have absolutely gone through hell. And hopefully he'll come out on the other side of this with his honor restored. Appreciate you being on the program with us, Leland, and sharing your experiences, very valuable insights.
Thank you. Absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you.
And now we go to a commercial break here on Más con Más, broadcasting from the studios of Cachita Universal Studios here in Miami, Florida. Thank you.
Bueno, mi gente, nosotras las colombianas sí que sabemos qué es lo que es un buen café. El café Cachita, lo mejor para que comparta con toda su familia.
¡Ay, sí! ¡Ay! Café Cachita, el mejor café para compartir.
Y aquí estamos compartiendo Dame un Like, solo por @NTVUSA.
Con una vista basta.
Los niveles de azúcar en la sangre juegan un papel muy importante en tu apetito, aumento de peso y en tu salud en general. Cuando tus niveles de azúcar en la sangre son altos, puedes sentir confusión, mareos e incluso más antojos de lo normal. Comer alimentos altos en carbohidratos, azúcares o grasas, así como no hacer ejercicio, pueden causar que tengas altos niveles de azúcar en la sangre. Sweeties de Longevity fue diseñado para ayudarte a mantener niveles saludables de azúcar en la sangre para que tengas energía durante todo el día. Es una sinergia de minerales, hierbas y nutrientes que se ha comprobado ayudan a mantener niveles saludables de azúcar en la sangre. Sweeties contiene cromo, un oligoelemento esencial conocido por ayudar a alcanzar niveles saludables de azúcar en la sangre, así como a mejorar el metabolismo de carbohidratos, grasas y proteínas. Contiene también corteza de canela debido a sus antioxidantes naturales y beneficios para mantener un corazón sano. Además, le hemos añadido gymnema, el cual ha sido utilizado en la Ayurveda durante siglos para ayudar a mantener niveles saludables de azúcar en la sangre. Todos los ingredientes que contiene Sweeties trabajan en conjunto para brindarte el mejor apoyo para el control de azúcar en la sangre. Sweeties, el suplemento que apoya el control de azúcar en la sangre de Longevity, te ayuda a controlar los antojos y a mantener niveles saludables de azúcar en la sangre durante todo el día. Para más información, contacta a tu asociado Longevity.
Hola, soy Irving González y recuerden nuestro compromiso acá en el programa Inmigración en Frontera por NTV USA. Todos los días estaremos respondiendo a sus preguntas sobre el tema de inmigración, al igual que lo que está pasando al momento. Comuníquese con nuestras redes sociales o pueden llamar al 305-374-4343.
pasaría si existiera un suplemento nutritivo que pudiera ayudar a proteger la salud de los ojos de los efectos del envejecimiento y del estrés del día a día de la actualidad? Bien, ¿qué pasaría si ese complemento viniera de uno de los nombres más confiables en nutrición? ¿No lo haría parte de su rutina diaria? Ocutive es el producto más nuevo de la familia Longevity Pro Line. Creamos Ocutive con una poderosa variedad de nutrientes específicos y extractos naturales, creados en compuestos integrales orgánicos, todos elaborados para fomentar la mejor salud óptica. Usamos lo último en investigación ocular y creamos Ocutive, la fórmula más completa disponible para el cuidado de los ojos. Afinamos la mezcla perfecta de nutrientes, incluyendo carotenoides activos, ricos en vitaminas y minerales, y poderosos extractos naturales para dar lo último en nutrición para la salud y cuidado de la vista. Ocutive optimiza la salud de la vista. Contacte a su distribuidor de Longevity para más información.
Bueno, mi gente, nosotras las colombianas sí que sabemos qué es lo que es un buen café. El café cachita, lo mejor para que comparta con toda su familia.
Ay, sí, ay, café cachita, el mejor café para compartir.
Y aquí estamos compartiendo Dame un Like, solo por @NTVUSA.
Con una vista basta.
Hoy tenemos con nosotros un invitado muy especial, Neida Costa, que tuve la suerte de hablar con ella hace un par de días de sus experiencias estando en casa durante toda esta crisis, y la quise invitar al programa para que nos explique un poco de la perspectiva de una persona que estamos todos tratando de proteger, cómo ella se siente y cómo piensa lo que ha ocurrido en esta epidemia y la experiencia personal que ella ha tenido. Bienvenido al programa, Neida. Cuéntanos un poquito de tu vida.
Bueno, ya con esta epidemia, pues nos ha tenido guardado en la casa, sobre todo las personas mayores, porque hay que tener en cuenta los médicos, las enfermeras, que se están jugando la vida y uno tiene que cooperar.
Y me dice tu hija que esto ha sido un poco difícil para ti porque tú eres una mujer muy independiente, ¿correcto?
Sí.
¿Todavía tienes tu licencia de conducir?
Sí, todavía.
¿Y tienes un automóvil enfrente de la casa?
Ah, sí, todavía.
Y le puedes decir a la audiencia, si no te importa, no queremos entrar en ese territorio, pero ¿cuántos años tú vas a celebrar este año?
94.
94, imagínate eso, 94 años, independiente, con licencia de conducir, y ahora la pobre encerrada en su casa.
Neida, solo un segundo para que la audiencia la ponga en perspectiva. Antes de que llegara esta pandemia que no nos merecíamos y no nos merecemos, ¿cómo era su vida cotidiana, su vida normal? ¿Cuál era su actividad?
Bueno, pues visitar a los médicos el día que me tocaba. De vez en cuando me sacaban a pasear y en mi casa, porque ya con la edad pues no me dejaban casi manejar.
Cuando dices a pasear es conduciendo tu auto.
No, ya no me dejaban conducir.
Dios mío.
Okay.
Pero tienes nietos y bisnietos, ¿no? Hijos también, así que me imagino que ellos te mantienen un poco ocupado.
Ah, como es natural.
Sí.
Sí.
¿Cuántos tienes? Cuéntanos cuántos.
Tengo 2 hijos, tengo 3 nietas y 2 bisnietos y 4 nietos, ¿no? 4 nietos también.
¿Y qué piensas hacer una vez que esta crisis termine, te dejan salir a la calle? ¿Qué piensas hacer cuando ya las cosas cambian de nuevo?
Bueno, pues tener más libertad y por lo menos salir a dar la vuelta a la cuadra y no tener la preocupación de tener que tener la cara tapada.
Sí, claro. Pues mira, Neida, te quería tener en el programa para que la gente viera la realidad, que una de las razones por las cuales estamos haciendo estos sacrificios es para proteger individuos como tú. O sea, nosotros todos le debemos una obligación a nuestros padres, a nuestros abuelos, que nos trajeron a este país, que nos criaron, y me alegro tenerte en el programa para que la gente vea en la cara de realmente por qué estamos haciendo estos sacrificios. Veo que tienes ahí esa venda en tu brazo izquierdo, o sea, ¿tuviste una caída?
Una caída y casi no puedo caminar.
Ay, Dios mío. Pero estás muy bien y estás muy claro del cerebro, que es lo más importante.
No tuve fractura, gracias a Dios.
Qué bien, qué bien.
Mucho golpe en toda la parte izquierda.
Ay, Dios mío. Pues espero que tengas una recuperación pronto y que estés de nuevo caminando en el reparto y con tus hijos y nietos y bisnietos y todo el mundo.
Muchas gracias.
Una sola cosa, Neida, antes de irnos. Me hablabas de dar una vuelta. Esa vuelta que dabas en tiempo normal y que volverás a dar cuando se vaya esta pandemia, ¿es una vuelta caminando la cuadra alrededor de la manzana?
Al mall. Caminando en los moles.
¿De verdad?
Sí, porque hay unos se entretienen mucho.
Bueno, mira, esto es un ejemplo para muchas personas que tienen mucho menos años que tú y tú ves que no caminan, son sedentarios. Creo que es un ejemplo para muchos de nosotros.
Ah, sí. Y yo todo lo hacía en mi casa.
Ok, bueno, te saludamos, te deseamos un óptimo fin de semana y que queremos seguir tu ejemplo. Mándanos la receta, por favor.
Exactamente. Y espero verte en el mall pronto.
Gracias.
Gracias, Neida, por estar con nosotros. Y gracias por estar aquí en el programa de Más con Más y participar con nosotros esta noche. Gracias por su participación. Gracias, Neida. Y nos vemos en el próximo programa aquí en Más con Más desde los estudios de Cachita Universal aquí en Miami, la Florida. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Chao.